Hope is a funny thing. If you treat it like cotton candy, it's going to dissolve at the very first raindrop. Treat it like rebar, and you can hold up a skyscraper. Today, we're going to talk about Admiral James Stockdale. He survived 8 brutal years as a POW by both using that steel beam honesty and bright-eyed faith. He believed he'd get home, and he also admitted that today might be his last. If you've ever wondered how to pray with hope while reading horrifying headlines, this episode is definitely for you. Got it.
Now, doesn't God call us to be people of unshakable hope? Absolutely. But hope that ignores hard truth becomes wishful thinking and crashes fast. So the problem we're kind of looking at today is many believers either sugarcoat reality, God's got this, I'm fine, or they wallow in cynicism. Everything's falling apart. Why bother praying? Now, both extremes sabotage spiritual stamina.
So true. And we're all probably guilty of it from time to time. So this colonel, right? James Stockdale. Like, how do you have that kind of a belief system? Like, so he's a POW. He was in for roughly 8 years as a POW during Vietnam, treated horribly, next to starvation, tortured on a daily basis, around his fellow prisoners, watching them be tortured and sometimes breaking underneath that torture. And somehow he kept his hope and belief and faith that, hey, I know I'm going to get out of here. But at the same time, he's also recognizing the reality of the situation and saying, you know what, today might be my last day. And he was okay with that. This reason they actually have a situation or whatever they are, like a principle that they call, using his name, called the Stockdale Paradox, because it's the belief that things will be okay, and it's the reality that things aren't okay.
Yeah. And what we're really talking about is hope.
Yeah.
I mean, he had hope that he would be delivered and brought back from that prison that how long? 7 years?
7 or 8.
It's a really long time. Like 30 days for me, I'm done. But 7 or 8 years. And
so
go ahead.
Go ahead. So there's more to this. There's kind of more to the story too that becomes really enlightening, and that is, so when he finally was released, he starts telling the story of him being prisoner of war and being tortured and all of that, and he said that he could tell the men that probably weren't going to make it, and they were the ones that would say, "Oh, we're going to get out. We're going to be out by Christmas." And then Christmas would come and Christmas would go, and then they would, we'll be out by Easter, and then Easter would come and Easter would go, or we'll be out by Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving would come, Thanksgiving would go, and next thing you know, it's Christmas again, and they're the ones that lost hope and didn't make it.
So you're saying that their hope, where they were continually let down, was their downfall? They lost hope by continually just putting a deadline. You're putting a deadline on hope. I'm going to be out by Christmas. I'm going to be out by Easter.
Right.
And
then when it doesn't happen, it just becomes demoralizing.
Yeah. And I mean, that's weird. So I got a story. I heard this just a few days ago. So verified, unverified, take it for what it's worth. But I love the idea. This was back in the days when cruelty to animals didn't matter in a laboratory setting. So yeah. Right. So took some lab rats, put them in a pot of water. It's not boiling water, it's just water. And they recorded how long it would take for them to drown. So they were putting rats in water, watching them drown, recording the time. The average time of rats dying in water where they couldn't get out of water was 15 minutes on average. 15 minutes. The second part of the experiment was they took a group of the same lab rats, put them in water, and waited about 15 minutes and watching them until they were almost on their last leg, so to speak. And they grabbed them, took them out of the pot, wiped them dry, gave them just the smallest piece of something to eat, and then put them immediately back in the water. So they were out of the water for maybe a minute and put them back in the water. They're still tired from the first 14 and a half minutes, let's be honest. Put them back in the water. And the result of the experiment was those rats in the same water, after being given just a minute of relief, lasted on average about 60 hours.
No way.
From 15 minutes to 60 hours. And it was because hope.
They were given a little bit of hope.
They were given just the smallest amount of hope. And it's the so how does that fit into the Stockdale paradox, where he's saying, I know I'm going to get out. That's hope. I know I could die tomorrow. And he believed both.
And he believed both, right? So you kind of have to live today for what it's worth, because none of us are promised tomorrow, right? So live today for what it's worth, and accepting that that tomorrow could be it. And at the same time, I expect to live a very long, healthy, productive, joyful, successful, satisfied life. So I think his hope was being able to live that life after this current situation is going on. So he's in the water with the rats right now.
He is.
And his little bit of hope is, one is faith, and two is that he will get to have a big, long, successful, satisfied life. So that's his little bit of hope. And at the same time, recognizing, like, I don't know what my captors are going to do, so that's somewhat out of my control. And just went through his whole experience of being a prisoner that way.
Yeah. And
what does that mean? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that I mean, holding on to the hope and realizing that it may not happen means he's not going to be let down. If it doesn't happen and he dies, he's not let down. He's dead.
True.
Right. But if it does happen, then that's the hope that he hung on to. And that's the hope that got him through.
You brought up at kind of at the beginning the idea that we're called, as Christians, we're called to have this kind of unwavering faith, but yet all the time we go to one extreme or the other. We just kind of ignore what's going on with us and just say, well, God's got it, it'll be okay, and ignoring the realities. Or you go to the other extreme and say things can't get worse. There's no there's no reason for me to pray. So how do we find that middle ground with our faith?
That's a good question. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 8 or 9, kind of both. So it goes somewhat like this. It says, we are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, struck down, but not destroyed. Now, I think I go back to one of my favorite Old Testament stories, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Love it.
Right? They're in a captive land. They're slaves. They got cornholed into a bad situation where they're going to be thrown in the fire. Everybody's mad at them, and they just stand firm. And they know they're going to get thrown into a fire. Nebuchadnezzar was just totally done with them. Throw them in the fire, be done with them. And yet they stood there and said, I know our God will deliver us. But even if he doesn't, we will not bow down, and we will not worship you. Now, is that the Stockdale Paradox?
Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, they're facing the reality of dying on the spot, and they're also relaying the hope that we will be delivered.
Yeah. So I believe I will get out of prison. I believe that God will deliver us from the fiery furnace.
Right.
And at the same time, today could be my last day. And at the same time, today could be our last day and we burn up.
Yep. And
so I think we should call it the Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego paradox.
It's a longer line.
It's a little long. Yeah.
It's a little longer line. So
how do we how do you put yourself in that situation? Are there any action steps that we could do?
Ask yourself this: what brutal fact are you currently avoiding? And how can you speak it out loud this week? Now, what do I mean by that? You're facing something that you don't want to do it. You just seem like there's no way around it. Can't be avoided. It's out of your control. So how can you speak it out loud this week? Ask yourself that question. What type of faith do you have to get through it? Not that it goes away, but that you get through it. Mm-hmm. Stockdale didn't get out of it. You're saying, well,
not immediately.
No, 8 years. He didn't get out of it. He got through it.
So, I like that.
So there's that. What are the call to action?
Well, and I think we have to kind of look at it from that perspective of what's a daily practice that we can put into place to be working on getting through that challenge that you're facing. We've talked about that in previous episodes, right? So if you're just joining us for the first time and you haven't checked out our other episodes, please do that. We talk about daily practices, and sometimes it's just the little small things that we can do. I think by doing those daily and having some success in those, no, that's not going to get us out of this thing that we're mired in right now, but it gets us a step closer and it allows us to feel some level of success as we're still dealing with it.
Right. Take ownership of who you are. Take ownership of your faith, and realize that what you cannot control, you cannot control, but yet you will not bow down. You'll not buckle under the pressure. You'll continue to trust God and let God have his way. That's easier said than done for many of us, but that is really how it works. Because sometimes God doesn't want to deliver us from things. He wants us to go through them.
Very good. I think that's probably a really good place to wrap up, Bill.
And that's where we're wrapping up. I'm Bill. That's Jamie. That's Jamie.